I am your host, Carrie Scollon, giving us different perspectives on where we are and where we want to go on our journey. Thanks for being here, and I look forward to spending some time with you. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another session of the Foundher Series. I have another beautiful guest on as one of the authors from the new book, Beautiful Chaos, Embracing the Unexpected. I have Marnie Law joining us from beautiful Nanoose Bay on Vancouver Island. So Marnie, thank you so much for being here and doing this.
Thanks for inviting me, Carrie. It's lovely. And Nanoose Bay is beautiful today, that's for sure. The sun is shining.
I love seeing where you are because the last time we did the little author spotlight before the book launched, you were in Mexico.
Yes.
So that was where
and
in the world is Marnie?
I have much better internet here, but it was pretty down there. I think I had some bougainvillea in the background.
That was gorgeous. That was a gorgeous setting. So we are here to talk about your everything, your experience with writing in the book. Your chapter is titled Things My Daughter Taught Me. Mm-hmm. And so your chapter, for those who haven't read it or have read it, obviously we're going to talk about Christie.
Yeah.
And her story. And really, we're going to go into a little bit of the reason that you chose to write at this time and the message that you wanted to get across. And I have a hard time with that because I know that everybody's going to take something different, right?
Yeah.
But usually as a writer, we come in with some sort of intention at the beginning. I know that all of the authors in this book and the previous book came in with really just the hopes that somebody may find something in our stories that they can take away. Right. Mm-hmm. So, I would love to hear from you and just what your experience was and how it's been for you now that it's actually been released, because there's a time period there, right? There
has been a little bit of time go by. I think it's cathartic for people going through grief of any sort, or maybe even happy times too, to get it out of your head, because things can go around like a mouse on a hamster wheel sometimes in your head, and the only way to sort of have some peace and let that hamster wheel slow down and stop is to get it out and on paper. At least for me, it works that way. I had written pieces of this story before and posted them on my Substack account, the Leo Art Collective. But this story was more sort of everything that happened from beginning to end. And it maybe didn't go into the detail that some of the other pieces did about perhaps Christie's transplant or other things. But I wanted to get it down, and so that it was there. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I also, because I reread your story before we came on so that I could make sure that I picked out some pieces that when you're talking about getting it on paper, you wrote about in the chapter about how important it was for you to hear the stories, to keep hearing the stories from people that had all types of experiences with Christie. And for somebody like you, hearing those stories, just it felt like you wrote that you cherish those, and people still bring up her name, and I love that. So
well, and I think some people, when you're talking to somebody that's going through grief or has lost a loved one, particularly a child, it's a terrible thing, but I think people are afraid to bring that up, and they're afraid to talk about it. They're, as if they're going to remind you of it, but really you're thinking about it every minute of the day. Anyway, It's always there, sort of running in the background. But we love any other parent that I've talked to that has gone through grief like this particular type, and people who've lost a husband, or they want to talk about their loved one. They don't want to pretend that they didn't exist, and just keep it in the background. We want to hear stories, and as a mom, I don't know about you, but when we have our babies and they're little and they're so attached to us, like we know every nuance about them, and I have this experience right now with my 20-month-old grandson at the house, and you get to know them so well, right? I just love that. And their expressions and everything. And then as they grow, they become their own person, and then they, maybe they go to daycare or they go to school, and they have different friendships and relationships with other people, and they go out in the wide world, and we're empty nesters, and they go to university, and we don't know everything about them anymore like we once did,
Yes.
and and so, having lost a child, when people come and say, "Oh, I remember she used to do this," you go, "Oh, I didn't know that." I'm so glad that you told me, because one of Christie's friends sent me a picture of the two of them in it's one of those fried chicken restaurants in the States. I forget what they're called, but anyway, they had these cutout pieces of paper taped to their shirts. And he said, we were trying to look like cows because then we got free chicken. It was a silly story, but I loved it. There was Christie with her friend Anthony in the restaurant, dressed up as a cow so they could get a free chicken dinner. And they're laughing.
So true. Yeah. And it brings a smile to your face, and you wouldn't have known that. You weren't there.
Yeah.
And even if you were there, you talked a little bit about, you have your memories, and you're relying on your own memories. So when someone else kind of infuses you with a different one, it must just feel so like, you got a new memory. Now you've got another little piece.
I've got a new snapshot. And to see her laughing and happy, those are the memories that I cherish, and that I'm really trying to focus on now, is the happy memories. Because it's hard when somebody goes through an illness, and of any type, and
I probably should back up there so that the ones listening, because I just tend to jump in with you. So
me too. Sorry. No, in the deep end.
That's right. And don't be sorry. This is exactly how I love these things to go. It's just, we start and we see where it ends. But to bring people back and kind of up to speed, I think it's important that they know that, Christie, and you can share a snippet of when she got diagnosed. I mean, you had things on top of the diagnosis with having to deal and go through this whole process during COVID, which is, I mean, you're adding another level of...
It did add a layer, that's for sure. Christie was diagnosed in February of 2020 with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. It's called T-cell ALL was what it was. But and that was right as COVID began, the whole thing. And so she went through her treatment through that spring, and had a stem cell transplant, which in the old days we used to know as a bone marrow transplant, but it's a stem cell transplant.
Okay.
And they don't actually take bone marrow from donors anymore. They actually take stem cells from your peripheral blood. Right. And if you're between 17 and 35 and you're listening to this, please think about registering for the stem cell registry. It's a great thing. You go on blood.ca.
We're going to make sure that goes into the show notes. So can you say that again? It's
if you go to blood.ca, which is the Canadian blood donor site, you can register to donate blood, which is a good thing, and you can register to be a potential stem cell donor. So,
perfect.
Anyway, yes, she did have a stem cell transplant, which is a really big procedure. Just that portion of it, she spent a month in hospital in Vancouver with no visitors allowed because it was COVID. And usually visitors are somewhat restricted for that procedure, and a lot of precautions taken because their immune systems are taken down to nothing basically with the chemo and radiation.
Right.
But so she went through that and came through, and she sort of emerged from that and pushed forward and wanted to work on things, be an artist. She started something called the Leo Art Collective and then she had to drop it because she did relapse. And so I picked up that name and used it in my Substack account. But Christie was great at just putting it out there. I'm an artist, and she didn't say I want to be or I'm an aspiring artist. She said I'm an artist.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah.
Like we can all learn from that. Like, well, your chapter is called "Things My Daughter Taught Me," but it should be called "Things My Daughter Can Teach Us." Still,
yes.
like I mean, it is. It's incredible.
She was great.
And that's just one of the things, right? Like I mean,
one of the things. Yeah.
But that is like. I'm a wannabe artist. No, I am one. Like for her to just own that, I'm taking that. I love that.
I love that. And she blasted out a blog too. She, she didn't overthink it. She might have had a typo or 3 in there, whatever. She just blasted it out, or she'd put something out on Instagram or, a little video or whatever. And I go back and I replay those just so I can hear her voice.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And so grateful that she did that. So that you can do that.
Absolutely. And she shared, that those things in her treatment, in her blog with people, and you can hear her voice in her writing. And there's another area where, sometimes people say, well, I'd like to write, or I want to write, but to come out and say, I am a writer. You don't have to be published to be a writer. And,
That's right.
And, we're circling back to the reason that we write is to share our experiences so that other people can read about it and take something from it, maybe, or maybe it helps them, or maybe they go, oh yeah, I felt like that too, and I didn't realize other people did, and
exactly, or how she lived her life. Just do it, like just do it. Just do it. Like I mean, if there is a message that so many of us wait until until we think it's the right time, or we wait until we think we're enough, or we wait until it's just like, I read that chapter, and to me, it's just like, there's a lot of people waiting.
Yeah. Don't wait. And I'm still guilty of it. When I get the house clean, when I get this, when I finish that, when I do this, you really need to put your writing or art or music or whatever it is that you love, or your gardening, first. Put it first. And everything else will fall into place. The housework is never going to go away.
Yeah, that's right. It's always going to be there.
Always going to be there. Yeah,
that's
the
right.
Dishes will keep getting dirty.
Yes, that's so true. So, I love the one of the quotes that we took out and put on the side, and it was, there's an invisible thread of connection between mother and child, and between mother and daughter, a certain bond with a shared secret of what it is to be a woman. And of course, that's going to resonate with me, with having 3 daughters of my own, and a mom and sisters who I feel that same. There's a thread of connection, and there connection. Are there. It's just something that and you use the word secret, and I liked it. Like I loved how you wrote your chapter, because it's such it's a topic that you, and I know I've said this to you before, but I just need to say it to you again, because to me it was such an honoring of Christie.
Oh, I'm like glad.
That's how I took that, is this is about Christie. It's coming from your perspective, because that's the only perspective you can write from. But I feel like you just really honored her there, and you allowed us into a little piece of the world that you had with Christie.
Yeah. And well, I wanted that. I wanted to honor her, and I still wanted to tell the story, truthfully from my heart. And I think that, it can change over time how you remember things or how you view things. Maybe you learn things about what happened, or just learn new things in life, and it gives you a fresh perspective. But I still feel that thread of connection, and I feel it even now. I can feel her. Yeah. So,
And you talk about that in the book. It's the, you look at the stars, or it's just a ray of sunlight coming through the window. Like, I mean, and you're choosing to see that and to feel that.
I get a sort of a wave of shivers down my spine, and I go, oh, there you are.
There she is. Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
hi, there you are. I know
Hi,
you're
there you
here.
are.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
And you must treasure those moments too.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, when I wake up sometimes and if I've dreamt and I'm like, oh, you were visiting. That's how I feel about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you touched on sometimes you wake up and you're like, no, I want to go back.
Yeah.
I want to go back into the dream. Yeah. Give me some more
Exactly.
time. Yeah, for sure. There's
For
such
sure.
a push and
Yeah.
pull of being grateful that you had that moment and
Mhm.
then wanting it back. I
Yeah.
mean, just this
And
constant,
yeah.
of course,
Yeah, of
But
course.
you,
I want her back. I want
right.
her back.
Absolutely. And you
Yeah.
really, I felt that through your chapter of just how real you were in that, and you weren't trying to sugarcoat something and, being the rah for people like you're going to get through it. No, you were
Mhm.
honest, and
Yeah.
you're never going to get through it or over it. I mean, this is just something that you learn to live with.
Absolutely. That is
Mhm.
so true. You don't get over it. I mean, you get through some time where it's not so intense so that you're
Right.
not just, you're just in this state every waking minute, but you do learn to make space for it, I think is
Mhm.
what it is,
Mhm.
and you
Mhm.
can hold it alongside joy as well. And there's an author, Suleika Jaywad, and she talks about holding joy and grief in the same
Mhm.
palm. And I
Mhm.
always love that. I love her quote. I think I mentioned it before, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I wrote that one
yeah,
down. It was like
mm,
allowing the space for grief to be alongside of joy and peace
mm,
and contentment.
mm,
So
yeah,
it doesn't have to be one or the other. You can walk hand in hand with those
yeah.
emotions.
And
Like,
sometimes you can feel guilty about having joy again. It's
mhm,
oh,
mhm,
I shouldn't, but I don't think that our loved ones that have gone to the other side, if you want to put it
mhm,
that way,
mhm.
who have passed away, I don't think they want us to be miserable for the rest of our lives.
I can't imagine.
No, I just
No.
don't think that that's what they would want,
Mhm,
and it's hard, but yeah, and I've seen new diagnoses with people around me in the community, and very recently a friend, her daughter has had a diagnosis, and that's not great, and we don't know what the outcome is going to be, but to stand beside people, it gives you the empathy to stand beside them and say, okay, you know,
y-
I'll be here to walk through with you.
Yeah,
It's really all you can do.
yeah. And the phases and the outcome may be different, but
Yeah, it totally. Hopefully,
you're
it
the
is.
only person
Yeah,
who can even slightly understand what that person is going through, because
yeah, yeah,
none of us can. We can only imagine it. Somebody
yeah,
said that to me the other day, and I've taken that to heart because I've said it many times. It's like I can't imagine. And the reason and what came back was no, actually you can imagine, but you don't want to, because we don't
yeah. And I
want to
don't
go
want.
there,
Yeah,
right?
I don't want anybody to go there, and I wouldn't wish
Yeah,
it on my worst enemy.
yeah,
I guess we have to continue on and try to find some I don't know if there's meaning in everything. A lot of people say, well, everything happens for a reason. I hate cliches,
oh,
by the way.
I
Oh,
don't like, that's a
yeah,
terrible saying. I really,
yeah, it's like,
yeah.
well, no, but I think we can try to find purpose
Hmm.
and make our own meaning of
Right.
things,
Yeah,
whether that's helping other people that are going through a similar situation, or
yeah,
promoting the stem cell registry,
yeah,
or writing to share your experiences. I
yeah,
think we make our own meaning in
yeah,
how we continue to live our lives.
yeah.
Yeah.
And part of like what you talked about with what she taught you is maybe that is living it full out.
Hmm. Yeah, living. Don't
And because
pause,
that's
don't
what she would
wait.
have done, right?
Yeah,
So,
don't wait for everything
yeah,
to be perfect.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
because it's not going to be.
It won't, and exactly, it's never going to be.
Mhm.
And
No.
and we miss out on so much when we're in that mode, right?
Yeah, we do.
Of
Yeah, yeah,
you talked a little bit about being sandwiched in between fear and hope. And that one, like I said, I'm going through and I'm pulling out things, but I'm like, I may as well have just written your whole chapter on this page because I'm like every line, I'm like, yeah, I gotta write that down. I'm like, okay, I gotta just pull out some of what grabbed me. Otherwise, we'd probably be here for 5 hours, and I would go through every sentence with you because that's how much I just appreciate it. And I think that's what's happening more now when I read things and I read real stories. You just appreciate what it takes to do that and to share that. And you allowing us into this piece of your life. To me, it just showed that you do want it to matter.
Of course.
Whoever reads it.
To other people out there. I think I was listening to something by Martha Beck. She's also an author and speaker, and she was talking about how to be still in that room with fear and hope crowding in on you on each side, sort of thing. And it really, really resonated with me at the time, because it was probably during Christie's transplant, and you're sitting on an eggshell, as many people are. And it's not just in a cancer situation, but there's many situations where people are, in life, despair or addiction or, so many things. And that fear and the hope.
Yeah.
And to try to just be present in the middle of it all and breathe deeply. And
you're the mom. Like you're carrying that of, I don't want to show fear because I still want her to have hope. And you're trying to manage all of that at the same time as, we're the moms, we're the protectors, we try to make sure they don't get hurt. We like all of that stuff comes out. And when you're in that situation where there is nothing you can do. So be there and love her and
but just be there and as Mel Robbins says, let them. There's another one. If you have a small child, then of course you're making decisions for them. But when you have a child that is an adult, they are making their own decisions too. And that is another area. As moms, we want to, like you say, protect them. And I don't want to use the word control, because and maybe we do. Maybe we try to control the situation so we can protect them. But to let them have that choice.
And support that. And you did. You had to make that decision to support, even though it sounded like from what you wrote there was fear in that. Like you didn't
there was fear, and there
think
was
that was
there was
that's normal. It must be like but you also said that some of the things that you learned from Christie was the compassion and forgiveness. And we talked a little bit about that, where it's forgiveness of ourselves we're so hard on ourselves with the decisions that we made. And in those moments, you were making it from a heart-centered place of wanting the best for her.
And you have to, somebody told me recently, you have to give yourself grace. And I was sort of, I'll say that to other people, but I never say it to myself.
Exactly. Exactly.
And, you're doing the best you can with what you have at the time. Just, like I always think that with our parents, they did the best they could with what they had at the time, which was, maybe not as much. And, and you have to forgive yourself. And Christie was a very forgiving person. We could have a fight and still, she would give me a great big hug, and she still loved me, and I loved her. And, we still do.
That's the another sentence was grief touches us all, and it is the price of love. So when we love, we're going to grieve at some point in our life with the people that we love. And you also touched on, we are going to lose our pets and our grandparents and our parents. And this, you just don't think of it as being somebody, your child, that goes before you. Because we all just assume and live our lives that they are going to say goodbye to us. Like, that's the natural way that we know how to survive in this world, right?
So we're gonna leave and feel bad that we're leaving them, and and it always feels like it's all way in the future too. Like, it's a bit of a mirage sometimes. I find we're lucky enough to have our parents still, and that's not going to be forever. But it always feels like somewhere out there. But we're all mortal beings.
Exactly.
And we have to, I think that's part of our assignment in life, is to really learn to love, and because in the end, that's what we have.
I agree.
I'm not going to take our house with us, or
and so many of the things that I've read, and the people that I watch and listen to, it's so much about, we've come here to learn and to love. And if you can do those two things, and if you're loved and you love, that's a bonus. That we get to be loved as much as we love.
As we love.
I can't imagine a life without that. And how grateful we are to have that, or to have had that. And that, I don't think that ever leaves us.
No, there's just that gratitude for that love that we have for our families and our and friends too, that have been so supportive, and oh my goodness, and neighbors.
And neighbors. Well, I would love for you to for us to be able to wrap this up in a way that feels good for you, and feels like this is about Christie, and it is about sharing becoming a stem cell donor. Like, just advocating for that, that you're still doing that in her name. And I just don't want Christie's name to ever stop being out there and being in conversations. And just because of you and you sharing, when I think of Christie, who I didn't get to know, and I met once, but my thoughts when I think of her are, when you talked about, like, she could be fierce, but she lived life like that, whether that was fierce and angry, or fierce and love and compassion and forgiveness. Like, she seemed to just embody so much in a short amount of time. But
she really did.
Knew who she was, and she went after what she wanted. And she lived like a life that we can learn from. And so I'm going to take a piece of her and carry that with me, knowing.
Oh, I appreciate that so much.
I just, that with this whole author thing, someone will say, "Oh my goodness, you're an author." I'm like, "Oh no, I'm not an author." Like, I just, I don't consider myself that. And it's just like, you know what? I am. I'm not going to be. I'm not going to try to be. I am. And
I write. Therefore, I am.
Yes. So that I'm taking that, and I'm crediting Christie to that. It's enough of this wannabe, and maybe later and one day. No.
Just let's live our lives fully. She was fierce and bold and brave and smart and beautiful, a champion of people that were underdogs, and so I won't say she was perfect, because
none of us
she would be laughing at me right now, and her
say, "Mom, you're
going,
lying."
"Mom."
Exactly, and that is exactly how you'd want her to. That's I love that, and none of us are. None of us are. And sometimes that's right, sometimes when we lose people, we do put them on that pedestal, like they were perfect, but that's not who they were. So we want to remember them who they were.
You want to remember exactly who they were.
Yeah. The quirks and all of it.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. All of it. Yeah. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to write the story in the book. It was really lovely. And, David Kessler's a grief therapist and says that we cannot heal what we don't feel. So, you need to go through and feel those feelings. And, if you write them or create paintings or music or whatever, I think it helps. It helps you feel that and you do heal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And your life is just different.
It is different. And you remember them with love instead of terrible pain and grief. Remember them with love.
Yes.
That's what I think our goal is.
Yeah.
Is to remember those wonderful moments and who they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And she will be forever remembered in a book by who knows how many strangers, but her name is gonna cross many lips.
Yeah.
And
I'm glad.
I think that's pretty special. So
I do too. Thank you.
Thank you, Marnie. Thank you for doing that. And I just, how much I appreciate you, how much I love you. And I think you're making a big difference just by sharing your story.
Carrie. Yeah. I think you are too. Thank you so much. It's been great.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone. And we will talk to you all soon after I wipe my tears. That would be great. Okay. Bye.